In 1991, Freddie Mercury, the legendary lead singer of Queen, revealed a heartbreaking truth that shocked the world. He was dying. 4 years, he had kept his illness a secret. Although his body grew weaker, his voice stayed strong. He even filmed his last music video in black and white to hide how sick he really was. In his final days, he stopped all treatments except painkillers. Just 1 day after telling the world he had AIDS, Freddie passed away. Today, we're sharing the real story of Freddie Mercury's final days. Freddie Mercury was born Farrokh Bulsara on September 5, 1946, in Stone Town, Zanzibar. His parents, Bomi and Bulsara, were Parsis with Indian roots. They originally came from a small town called Bulsar, now known as Valsad, in the Indian state of Gujarat. The family followed the Zoroastrian religion, which comes from ancient Persia. Freddie stood out from the beginning. He was born with 4 extra teeth, and he later believed this unique dental structure helped him develop a powerful singing voice. His vocal range was incredibly wide, from deep bass notes to high soprano. Because Zanzibar was still under British rule when he was born, Freddie was a British subject. This small detail would later help him build a career in the UK. When Freddie was 6 years old, his younger sister, Kashmira, was born. In 1969, he officially became a citizen of the United Kingdom and its colonies, right around the time his musical career began to rise. Freddie's early life in Zanzibar was comfortable. His father worked as a cashier for the British Colonial Office in the High Court, which gave the family a high social status. Freddie first attended a missionary school where Anglican nuns taught him, giving him early exposure to British-style education. But everything changed in 1964. A violent revolution broke out in Zanzibar, targeting Arabs and South Asians. Thousands were killed. Freddie's family, being of Indian origin, had to flee. They left everything behind and escaped to England. Freddie was just 17 years old. Moving from a sunny island to a cold grey suburb in England was a dramatic change. Life was never the same again. But Freddie's journey really started years earlier. When he was 8, his parents sent him to St. Peter's School, a British-style boarding school in Panchgani, India. The school was strict. Students wore uniforms, followed strict rules, and spoke proper English. But it was here that Freddie's talents began to shine. A headmaster noticed his potential and suggested he take piano lessons. His parents agreed to pay extra for them. That small decision changed everything. Freddie quickly became skilled in piano. He was also great at sports, painting, and acting in school plays. Though he was quiet, he wasn't unnoticed. Other kids called him Bucky because of his teeth, but Freddie didn't mind. By age 12, he had already won a school award for being the best all-rounder. During his time at St. Peter's, Freddie formed a school band called the Hectics with 4 other boys: Bruce, Derek, Farong, and Victory. They performed songs by Elvis Presley, Cliff Richard, and Little Richard. Freddie played the piano and sometimes sang. People were amazed by how easily he could play music just by listening to it. The band became a hit at school events and gave Freddie his first experience with fame. He was also inspired by Indian music. He listened to legendary Bollywood singers like Lata Mangeshkar and Kishore Kumar. Their emotional singing style later influenced the dramatic flair Queen became known for. After returning to Zanzibar in 1963, Freddie's world was soon turned upside down by the revolution the following year. His family escaped to England, settling in Feltham, a suburb far from glamorous. The sky was grey, the houses were dull, and life felt cold and strange to someone who had grown up in warm Zanzibar. But Freddie didn't just survive, he changed. After finishing school, he enrolled at Isleworth Polytechnic and later studied graphic design at Ealing Art College. Ealing was full of creative people, rebels, artists, and dreamers. Freddie felt at home. He met Tim Staffel there, a fellow music enthusiast. They bonded quickly. Freddie also started helping out with a rebellious underground magazine that mocked the design world. But his real passion was music. He became obsessed with rock stars, especially Jimi Hendrix. He didn't just listen to Hendrix. He studied his every move, even sketching him. Freddie didn't want to just sing. He wanted to command the stage. This passion led him to join a band called Ibex in 1969. They weren't well known, but Freddie didn't care. He learned all their songs in 10 days, added his own, and performed live with them at the Octagon Theatre in Bolton. That night, a star was born. Freddie moved, dazzled, and completely transformed the stage. The band was amazed. Soon, he convinced them to change their name to Wreckage. They wrote songs together and even recorded one in Freddie's flat. But Wreckage didn't last long. Freddie briefly joined another band called Sour Milk Sea, but that ended too. Still, Freddie wasn't discouraged. He once told his bandmates, "We're not going to make it playing three-chord blues. We have to write our own songs." Then, in March 1970, something unexpected happened. Tim Staffel left his band, Smile, which included guitarist Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor. Since Tim and Freddie were close from art school, Freddie quickly stepped in. He had been attending Smile's gigs and giving advice even before joining. At first, Brian and Roger weren't sure about him. Roger later admitted he saw Freddie as just a fun friend, not a serious singer. But that changed quickly. Freddie brought new energy and ideas. He urged the band to be more dramatic on stage and even suggested a new name, Queen. It sounded bold and royal. While the others were unsure, Freddie believed it was perfect. Around this time, he also changed his last name to Mercury. It wasn't just a name, it was a transformation. Queen still needed a bassist. After trying out several people, they met John Deacon in 1971. He was quiet, only 19, and not flashy, but he had talent. He brought a custom-made amp that helped shape Queen's sound. He didn't seek attention, and the others appreciated that. With John on board, Queen was finally complete. Freddie also used his art skills to design the Queen logo. He combined each band member's zodiac sign, lions for Roger and John, a crab for Brian, and fairies for himself, and wrapped them around a large Q with a crown and a phoenix. The logo looked majestic, fitting for a band aiming to rule the stage. Their early recordings weren't easy. Queen used Trident Studios, but only at night when other big acts were done. They'd wait around, then record until morning. It was exhausting. When their first album finally came out in 1973, the reviews were mixed. Some liked it. Many didn't understand it. But Queen didn't give up. In 1974, their music started to evolve. Their earlier albums were long and a bit all over the place, but then came Sheer Heart Attack. This was the moment Freddie found his sound. The songs became tighter, more dramatic, and full of glam. Then came Killer Queen. It was a breakthrough. The song became a hit in the UK and even reached America. Behind the scenes, things were tough. Queen was making hits, but they were broke. Their label, Trident, kept most of the money. Freddie lived in a damp flat, and John Deacon couldn't even get a loan. After long legal battles, they finally broke free from Trident, but it cost them. They had to give up money and future royalties. Despite the risk, they decided to go big. Their next album, A Night at the Opera, was the most expensive ever made by a British band at that time. They used 7 studios and spent a fortune. It was a gamble. Either it worked, or Queen was finished. Freddie came in with a bold idea, a 6-minute song with no chorus, full of operatic twists. It sounded like madness. That song was Bohemian Rhapsody. No one believed it would be played on the radio, but Freddie didn't care. He said he made a cheap but powerful music video in just one day. He released it quickly, and it changed everything. That song stayed at #1 for 9 weeks. It didn't sound like anything people had heard before, and it worked. Freddie Mercury didn't just change music with that song. He changed himself. On stage, he became something new. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He moved with confidence, like he owned the stage. He strutted, performed, and gave everything he had. He sang with a voice that could hit very high notes and deep, emotional lows. He had the power to stand in front of 20,000 people and make each one feel like he was singing just to them. One day, he accidentally broke a microphone stand. Instead of throwing it away, he used it as a prop. It became something he was known for, like a weapon, like part of who he was. When Queen first performed Bohemian Rhapsody live, the concert felt like more than just music. People weren't just watching a band. They were watching a true performer grow into his full power. Then came a night in 1977 at Bingley Hall. After Queen finished their set, the crowd suddenly began singing, "You'll Never Walk Alone." It wasn't planned. No one told them to do it. It just happened. Freddie stood there, amazed. He turned to Brian May and said, "We need songs for this." That moment inspired "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions," two songs that became some of the most famous stadium anthems in history. From that point on, Freddie didn't just sing to his fans. He created songs they could sing back to him. And they did, every night. By the time Queen released Another One Bites the Dust in 1980, they had moved far from their early glam rock style. That song had a funky, sharp sound that surprised many people. Some thought Queen couldn't pull it off, but they did. It became their biggest hit in the United States. Freddie never stayed in one style. He kept changing, kept trying new things. That's why Queen's music kept reaching new fans, because no one could ever guess what they would do next. As the band became more famous, Freddie started living a big life. He didn't believe in saving money. He believed in enjoying it. If he wanted something, he bought it. If his sister needed a new kitchen, she got one. If a jewelry store was closed, he would have it open just for him. His birthday party in Ibiza was wild. 700 guests, a giant cake shaped like a cathedral, and hundreds of broken glasses by the end. Freddie didn't just live large. He lived loud. But not everything Freddie did was praised. In 1984, Queen chose to play in Sun City, South Africa, during apartheid. That decision was very controversial. Most musicians were boycotting the country because of its racist system, but Queen went anyway. They said they weren't making a political statement, they just wanted to perform. But many people didn't see it that way. The backlash was harsh. They were fined, blacklisted, and criticized in protest songs. Years later, the band admitted they may have made a mistake. They said it wasn't about money, but the damage was already done. Still, Freddie kept looking for new challenges. In 1980, Queen made music for the film Flash Gordon. It wasn't a typical Queen album. Only a few songs had lyrics. Brian May led the project and used synthesizers, which were new for the band. Some fans didn't understand the music. Others thought it was more exciting than the movie itself. It was unusual, but it showed that Queen was ready to try new things, even if not everyone followed. In 1982, Queen released Hot Space. It had a lot of disco and funk sounds. Freddie and John Deacon liked it, but Brian and Roger didn't. The band was clearly divided. Their recording sessions in Munich were full of tension. They stayed up all night, drank too much, and argued a lot. Roger Taylor blamed Freddie's manager, Paul Prenter, for pushing the band toward music made for gay clubs. Many fans felt betrayed. The album didn't do well. But interestingly, musicians like Michael Jackson were paying attention. Even though Hot Space didn't sell well, its influence could be heard in music that came later. During all this chaos, something special happened. Queen met David Bowie in a studio in Switzerland. They started jamming, and that led to the song Under Pressure. John Deacon came up with the famous bass line. Freddie and Bowie didn't always agree, they argued a lot, but their energy made the song powerful. It became a #1 hit and reminded the world that Queen could still surprise everyone. By 1983, the band was exhausted. They had been recording, touring, and fighting for years. They finally decided to take a break. It was the first time they had stopped since the band began. The time off gave them space to breathe, but it didn't solve everything. Freddie and Deacon wanted more dance music. Brian and Roger still loved rock. Freddie's loyalty to his manager made things harder. But that quiet time helped them remember what made them strong. In 1984, they released The Works. It was the comeback they needed. Freddie brought his style and flair. Deacon added rhythm. And Brian and Roger finally got their guitars back. The music balanced rock and pop. Radio Gaga was a huge hit. I Want to Break Free became an anthem. Queen stayed on the charts for nearly 2 years. The world noticed, except in the United States. The video for I Want to Break Free showed the band dressed in drag. In the UK, people found it funny. But MTV banned the video in America. When Freddie wore the costume on stage in Rio, fans threw things at him. It hurt the band's image in the US, and they never fully recovered there. Freddie didn't stop. In 1985, he released his solo album Mr. Bad Guy. It was all him. No compromises. The album had dance beats, sad ballads, and lots of fun. He even dedicated it to his cats. Some fans loved it. Others didn't. The album didn't do well in the US, but Freddie didn't care. It wasn't about sales. It was about freedom. He had spent years working within Queen's system. Now he was doing things his own way. Then he did something no one expected. He worked with Montserrat Cabal, an opera singer he admired. He met her in a hotel in Barcelona and played her a demo, singing her parts in a high voice. She was shocked, in a good way. They recorded Barcelona together, and it was beautiful. The song mixed opera and rock in a bold new way. It later became the anthem for the 1992 Olympics. They even made a full album. It was strange and powerful, just like Freddie. In early 1988, just months after learning he had HIV, Freddie went back into the studio with Queen. He didn't tell the public. He didn't want pity. He just wanted to make music. Even though he was sick and scared, he gave everything he had. The result was the miracle. It didn't sound like a goodbye. It sounded full of life. It was #1 in many countries. Fans didn't know it yet, but the album was truly a miracle. Then came Innuendo. By then, Freddie's body was weak, but his voice was still strong. Brian May said Freddie asked them to keep writing songs. He told them, "You can finish it after I'm gone." He kept recording, even when it hurt. The title song reached #1. It was dark, powerful, and full of meaning, just like him. On February 18, 1990, Queen went to the Brit Awards to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award. Freddie said only 5 words. "Thank you. Good night." He looked tired and thin. Rumors about his health became more serious after that. But even then, he smiled and waved. He didn't want people to see his pain. His bandmates said they never talked about his illness. That was Freddie's choice, and they respected it. He kept working. Some days he could barely stand. Some days he could only sing for an hour. But he always showed up. The people who worked with him said the studio was still full of laughter. Even when he was dying, Freddie didn't let sadness win. When they asked him if he could sing "The Show Must Go On," he said, "I'll do it, darling." Then he drank a glass of vodka and sang it perfectly in one take. That song became one of his greatest performances. In May 1991, Freddie filmed his last music video, "These Are the Days of Our Lives." It was in black and white to hide how sick he looked. He wore a vest with drawings of his cats. He smiled, joked, and kept doing takes until he was happy. At the end of the video, he looked into the camera and said, "I still love you." That was his final message. A few months later, in November, he decided to stop all medication except painkillers. He was ready. He wanted peace. His friends stayed with him day and night. He couldn't paint or see well anymore, but he still laughed and shared memories. On November 22nd, he told Queen's manager to release a public statement saying he had AIDS. At 8 p.m., the news was announced. At that moment, Freddie smiled. His assistant said it was the calmest he had looked in years. The secret was out. The fight was nearly over. Less than 24 hours later, on November 24, 1991, at exactly 6:48 p.m., Freddie Mercury died. He was 45 years old. The world lost a voice, a legend, and the first famous rock star to die from AIDS. His death forced people to talk about the disease. It couldn't be ignored anymore. Even after his death, Freddie left behind a mystery. Everyone knew he was cremated at Kensal Green Cemetery in West London. But no one knew what happened to his ashes. For over a year, they stayed unclaimed. Then his close friend and former lover, Mary Austin, took them. She never told anyone where she scattered them. In 2013, fans found a small plaque with his real name, dates, and a French message signed M. But it was removed soon after. Maybe it was taken away to protect the secret. And so, even in death, Freddie Mercury stayed unforgettable. A man full of energy, love, and mystery, right to the very end.